this is Lavinia at Cross Keys Crafts. I want to show you two quick Lavinia cards today. I've seen a few comments on the Facebook groups recently. There is Lavinia for you and Reach Out with Lavinia, I think it's called. And people have been asking, which stamps do you start with? There are so many stamps to choose from. And also people get a bit intimidated by the amazing artwork of some of the design team artwork, and I want to show you two really simple cards today that anyone can do with very limited supplies. You can actually start with stamps that cost £1. They're called the mini stamps, and you've got like a little pippin here, which is like a little hair. You've got loads of little foliage pieces. So these only cost £1, plus obviously postage if you order them online. And I want to show you something with this today, but little Pippin has got, he's hopped away somewhere. I can't find him. So I'm using the slightly bigger stamp here, which is from the Whimsical Hairs collection here. And I will also use some of these. But you can, as I said, you can start with just that one. You also have, at a good price point, sets that have got quite a few stamps in them, like these flowers. I have to link to them below. I haven't labelled mine. I can't remember what these are called. Or I've got the flower pots. So I will probably use one or two of these today as well, just to fill up my design. But again, you could use some of the pound stamps. And the other thing you need for these cards, so even if you're an absolute beginner, you just need an ink blending brush or any ink blending tool. You need one ink that is suitable for ink blending. I'm using the Elements Lime Punch, but you can also use Distress inks, Distress oxides, any other brand is fine. And I'm using the VersaFine Clair Verdant. This is for stamping. It is worth investing in these, but you don't have to have all colours of the rainbow. You can do today's design with the black one if you wanted to. I just find it a bit nicer for the background to have a colour that matches my ink. So, and the other thing you need is, I created myself a stencil here. This is just a laminating sheet that I had laminated. I had played around with something that didn't work out. So I just die cut a heart from this, but you can obviously cut this by hand. You don't need to have a die cutting machine to start with. You can also, got this here, cut this out of some paper, or this is some card that comes underneath my yogurts. So you don't need a lot of money to start card making, and I advise you not to buy everything because I think this can be rather overwhelming. And then I've got card bases. These are shopboard from the works. I like square cards at the moment. And just to make the design a bit more interesting, I have cut myself some mats and layers. So I'm going to size down from that card and then a size down again from this. I just cut these on my guillotine, and I think that sort of finishes off the design quite nicely. It's just to keep it simple but still interesting. So this card, by the way, even that is not very expensive. I think it's a pack of 100, and I'm going to link to that below. It's a 300 GSM. But you don't need to spend a lot of money on cardstock. Just make sure it's smooth enough for ink blending and for stamping. But I'm very happy with this one, and I use it for building cards as well. So yeah, and this is all we need. I've got a sentiment here, but you don't need to have a sentiment stamp. You can write that yourself. There is no need for all the supplies. They're nice to have, and I love playing with mine. But as I said, I want to show you two simple designs today that you can easily create with just a few supplies. So I'm starting off with the first card. So I'm going to place my stencil here over my card. I'm making sure it's in the middle, as in the middle in between these two edges here. but you can decide whether you want to move it up or down depending on whether you would like to put the sentiment at the bottom, which I think I will do, so I'm just putting it on there. So, and I'll tell you what else I do. I will just move it up a little bit, and I will just get my tape out. This is removable Scotch tape, which is very nice, but you can just use some washi tape. Anything that is sort of low tack would work nicely. And I'm just conscious I've got my ring light there. I think I moved that a little bit away so it doesn't have the glare. And apologies for the wobble, I'm just moving my camera over a little bit. Maybe turn up this light. Okay, so all we need to do first of all is to put some colour down to get the outline of this hard die. By the way, I'm making 2 Easter cards. I like to make cards that I use for myself, and Easter's coming up soon, so I thought it might be worth starting now. So I'm just picking up some ink and I'm putting it in my lid just to make sure I don't have too much on it, and I'm starting on the edges. I'm coming in from the stencil, and then I can test how much ink I've actually got on here. I'm holding the stencil down with my finger as well, and it's actually quite nice because it's not too much ink on there. But rather than going on the ink pad, I'm picking up some ink from here now. So, and if I find I don't have enough on there, I can go back on the pad, get some more ink. So, and once I've got the outline of it, I'm just, with a very light hand, I'm just ink blending a little bit towards the middle. It's up to you whether you want to fill the heart completely. I just want it like this. So, and that's all there is to it. That's the ink blending done on this card. So I can take this off, and this gives us this lovely outline of the heart. And this now helps us with the stamping. Did I mention that that's the mini leaf too? Because it's an Easter card, I didn't want anything that looks too much like autumn or winter, and I think this is a nice stamp for spring. One thing I forgot is a little piece of scrap paper on the side. I like to stamp off sometimes, or even test the stamp on the side. When you first get stamps, it's worth giving them a little rub just in case they have got some residue of the production. Usually the Lavinia stamps are fine, but it's worth testing. So I'm just pressing this on here. Some people like to do it the other way around, but especially with the small ones, I like to put my stamp onto the pad. Oh, by the way, I also like to have a small acrylic block for the small stamps, so I don't wobble when I press it down. I find that better. So all I'm doing now is going along the edges of this, sort of overlapping a little bit and moving my stamp around. So I'm starting at the bottom here, and then I do something that is called second generation stamping. So I'm going to stamp this off again without inking it up, but I'm changing the angle a little bit. So I'm coming in now here, and again stamping this off. And I think I face this way up on this round and then go around facing that way on that round. So I want a second generation there, so I'm starting my first generation there and go on here. So I will quickly speed this up for the video, and then I'll show you how we continue. So you saw when I did the top bit, it's actually easier to turn your artwork around or if you're working in a circle, like have a circular wreath, then it's definitely worth doing that. So as you can see, we've still got, we've got these areas here where the stalk starts. So it's nice to have a second stamp that you can cover this a little bit with and take the focus away from. So I'm just choosing one of my other stamps, and at first I thought about using these, but these have got stalks as well. So it might be worth using one of these. I think this one would be nice. Could also use a flower for spring, but as I wanted to keep it all green, I think I just use this one. And I'm just using the same colour again. You can come in with a second colour if you want to, but I want to show you this card with limited supplies. Oh, by the way, you can also use the elements for stamping. I might actually do that. It's not as crisp, but it still gives a nice finish. I think I will actually do that because it's got a slightly different texture to it, and I think it will look nice. So I'm just trying to go into these areas where I've got the second generation. I don't want to stamp too much over it. I want to still expose it a little bit, but I just want to round this off a little bit. And especially where I've got the stalks there, I want to go over that. And again, I'm rotating the stamp, or meant to anyway, just to give it a different look. Yeah, so I just want to show you this. So we've got with the elements, and we've got a bit of a speckled look. I don't know if that shows. One thing I'm not happy with is this here. I would have actually put it a bit higher. But what I can do is just take a bit of scrap paper there. I'm going to ink this up again. I'm going to cover this here where I've already stamped, and I'm placing this so that one of the leaves will reach a bit higher. And you see, oh, I've got it a little bit cut off. Should have gone a bit higher, but it doesn't matter. Only if you know it, you will see that. So yeah, I'm happy with that. That's all I need for that. So all we need to do now is to place down our hair. We're taking him out a half. Here he is. So I was thinking about stamping in him green, but I think I would use a different colour. I could use a darker green. I'll tell you what I will use. I will use the VersaFine Twilight. That's a really dark blue, and it's a nice alternative to the black because it's not as harsh as the VersaFine sometimes is. So I'm just stamping it off, just checking whether it's fine. I've always got a bit of residue on these. I think it's from the baby wipes. You know, sometimes you use your baby wipes to clean the stamps. I have started to clean mine actually with, you know, some proper cloth or with just soapy water. I think this is so much better. So I'm sorry, off camera there. I'm just inking this up again. And I'm just popping him down here. You don't need a stamping platform for that. Just be brave. And yes, I've had it in the past where I dropped the whole acrylic block onto the card. There we go. So I'm still mindful that I've got some ink on there. So I just want to show you this. That frequently happens when I stamp the silhouette stamps, but it doesn't matter. I'm just using a brush. Still got some residue on it, because I think I used it for black last time. So I'm just picking up a little bit of the ink pad and just fill it in. And the advantage of using this ink rather than a black pen is there is no shine to it. Sometimes with black pens you get a bit of a shine, and then you can actually see that it's a different medium. So it's still a bit speckled, but that doesn't matter because it's fur after all. It might be an older hair that's already got a few greys. So one thing I like to do with especially the hair images that look up, they need something to look at. And I think I'm just getting out a little butterfly stamp. They do different ones at Lavinia, again for £1. And I will also get a white pen. I'll show you the options there in a few secs. So, pound stamps to choose from, or mini stamps they're called. You've got the mini flutter here, which is the full butterfly, that's nice. There is the flutter by mini, and I like this because it's facing that way and the hair's facing that way. There's also the bee miniature, that's really nice. I quite like that. And there's also in the fairy bugs set, there is this butterfly, which is actually the flutter by mini but the other way around. I didn't realise that this week that this is the other way around. I thought I had this one twice. So we've also got dragonflies here, so lots of options. And again, the set, because you've got 4 stamps in one set, it's a good price point. And yes, Lavinia is a rabbit hole, literally a rabbit hole. You can get carried away, but you only need a few stamps. So I think I really like this one. I like the flutterby, so I will stamp that one. Just finding, there's another acrylic block. So I will use the same VersaFine Twilight. So just pop him here. See if he was saying hello to the hair. There we go. And I love, absolutely love the little details. Look at the legs there. And this is a quality stamp that you don't get with many companies, and at £1, you know, can't be beaten. So I'm going to colour him in a little bit, and just to show you, you know, you don't need a lot of supplies. I will just do this with my crayons in a moment. But whilst I've got my other things ready here, I want to show you different options of giving the hair some highlights. So there are gel pens. These are fairly cheap. This is a pastel pen. Again, not a bad price point because I only bought the white ones. They come in a set from Amazon. This was a recommendation by Joe Rice. By the way, if you are a beginner and you want to see really easy cards, watch Joe Rice. I'm going to link to her channel below. She's amazing. And yeah, so many, in a way, simple designs, and there's so many techniques I've learned from her. So yeah, I think she's really inspiring. And there's also the option of a Posca pen. These are a bit pricier, but again, very versatile. I only actually have the white one. And sometimes I struggle with the gel pens. This always depends on whether it's got a good day or a bad day. I think this one might be okay. So what you would do, just to give the hair a bit of dimension, you would decide where the light's coming from, and then you give it just some highlights. And I like to do a bit like a stitched line because it is fur after all. And that might actually be just enough. Go. Maybe a little bit on the toes, although the body might cast a little bit of a shadow. So let me just lift that up so that you can see that. I hope the camera's focusing. So yeah, I'm just getting some crayons, and then I'll just quickly show you how I colour it in, and then the card's almost finished. So any standard crayon would work. You can use alcohol markers, but be careful with the VersaFine because that can smear a little bit. You can use watercolour, pencils, but yeah, I think this is the quickest option. And I'm just using one plain colour because that will be enough for my design. So just went for a bit of yellow there. You can also, I could have done that actually, use the elements, just use a small brush, just like you've seen me colour the hair in, you can use that and just apply the colour. So you don't need these, but some cheap pencils would work. So all that left for me to do would be now to put in sentiment. Sorry, my brain's just gone. I just show you a little trick. I've shown this before for people who've watched me before, but you might be new to my channel. Let me just get an acrylic block. Sorry about the noise. So I show you quickly how you can stamp this if you only want part of the stamp. Obviously this is an Easter card, I don't want the Christmas. So I'm just taking my tape, you can use a post-it note or just a piece of paper, and I'm covering the Christmas word. I don't want that. And then I'm using, just thinking whether I want green or black. Ooh, a bit undecided. Tell you what, I do this one in the twilight, not in black. And then for the next card, I'll show you what it looks like in the green. So I'm inking this up as normal, and then I peel this off before I do the stamping, and then I can stamp this here. And this is what I say sometimes with the big blocks, they're not ideal because I might wobble now. Although the Lavinia stamps are very solid, so usually it's not an issue, but try not to, you know, like press it down here or press it down there. I'm just pressing in the middle. And with the VersaFine clays, always give it some time to seep into the cardstock. Don't lift it up straight away. And there we go. We've got blessings, and that will be enough for me. I don't need to put Easter on there. I think this will be a really nice card. And just to show you this, so I would mount this on there. Need to zoom out a little bit now, don't I? And then this goes on here. And look at this. Very simple to make, very simple supplies, I think. And yeah, very effective. And yeah, looks like you had years of crafting. I obviously did that. I've been crafting, paper crafting for 5 years, but you can do this if you're new to Lavinia or to paper crafting. So let me just clear this away a little bit and I'll show you my second idea. For my second card, I'm using similar supplies. So I've got my ink pad again, my ink blending brush. I've chosen a different hair this time. You'll see in a moment why. I think it will be easier to stamp. And I've also got my blessing stamp there again. Oh, and I've got my VersaFine clays. I'm just using the same ones again. So all I'm doing with this bit now here is I'm just putting down some ink. You could put down a stencil, but I want to show you this all with minimal supply. So as before with the stencil heart, I'm coming in from the outside and just turning this round now. And for those of you who've seen me before, I keep on saying it, I'm not very good at ink blending. And I actually have got some new ink blending tools. I'm going to show you them quickly. I've got myself these, but because I want to show you minimal supplies, I will use my ordinary ink blending brush. If you wanted to, you could, if you've got a not juicy ink pad, you can even just swipe across here. You could do some ink smooshing, I think it's called. I always say swooshing, where you put ink down on a non-porous surface, you add some water, and then you just dab your card into it. So loads of ideas, but I want to keep this really, really simple. So normally on a card I would go in with a different colour on the edges to give it some depth, but here I'm just really keeping it simple. But this time I want to fill in the whole card, so I'm definitely going down here. I've actually got some ink left in here, so I can pick that up. And I'm going in with a heavier application now, just to make sure I've got ink everywhere. And I will just go around once more to layer this up for the frame. A bit heavier in the corners. So there are different techniques as well. You could spritz a little bit of water on the background to give it some texture, but I'm not doing that today. So that's all we need for that. So I'm starting with my hair. I just need to move them around a little bit. I could use a bigger acrylic block, but I really wanted to have the smallest block, so it's just okay here on the diagonal. So I'm going to stamp him once in my VersaFine Twilight. So as before, I'm just stamping him off on the side, just checking that he's stamping okay. Again, we've got a bit of a speckled look, so I'm just adding a bit more ink. So, and now I'm having a look where I'm placing him. I want to place him somewhere here. And again, I give it some time for the ink to seep into the paper. There we go. See, I've got a more solid look now that I've inked him up a bit more. So I now need to clean my stamp here quickly on the side. Just giving that a gentle rub. I might need some water. Just checking that in a moment. Yeah, let me just do this off camera. I'm just putting some water on it with it just to remove the last bit of ink. I'm now coming in with my VersaFine Clear Verdant again. And as before, I'm inking up the hair. Just testing it on the side. Need a bit more ink. I'm just stamping another one right next to it. And he actually fits perfectly twice onto that piece of cardstock. This, by the way, is 5 1/4 square. The mat is 5 1/2, and then my card base is not 6, it's sort of 5 7/8, I think. So can you see? It's a bit of a speckled look, but because it's green on green, it's fine. So now I'm going to turn this upside down, and I'm going to stamp another row of hairs, and I'm just putting one down here. I'm making sure I'm not going too high because I don't want to interfere with the ears there. So I'm just placing this down here. Wonderful. So inking him up again. And now I want him to go off the edge. Yeah. So just want to show you one thing. Don't be tempted to lose any residue or whatever on this side, just in case you think, oh, this is enough to fill this in, because you will have this edge here. So making sure get rid of that. And I'm just inking it up properly again. I've done this on some cards and messed it up a little bit. So I'm just staying on the same level, sort of, and stamping on this side. Yeah. So for the next row, I'm going this way around again. I'm offsetting it again here. So similar to there, I might do it a little bit differently. And I might go in the back. I might actually also put in some feet there, but I don't know that yet. And I will continue down here, but I will leave a little bit of space for my sentiment. And you've seen how I did this. I might actually stamp this in green, or I might leave it black as before, or sorry, the twilight, the dark blue. I'll have a look, but I quickly do this off camera. So here are my two finished cards. With this one little tip, when I came to the last row, I stemmed the blessings first so I knew where to place these hairs. And I decided against matting this with green. I thought I could do with a black mat. In hindsight, I would have cut this a little bit smaller and have less of a black frame, but I still think it's very nice. And it goes with the dark colours here. I don't have any dark blue, not as dark to go with the twilight ink, but I think this is really nice. And also nice for a mail card because it's not too whimsical. I think this is really, really fun. And I also like the first card with a heart, very simple supplies. Yeah, and I hope I could give you an idea what you can do with the Lavinia stamps with just the pound stamps. And as I said, Pippin is available as a pound stamp as well. I just could not find him. So very limited supplies, very simple techniques, and this is how you can start, and maybe even start on your Easter cards like I just have. If you like these cards, you might want to give me a thumbs up, and if you'd like to see more of what I'm creating, you might want to subscribe to my channel. I'd be very happy about that. And I'll see you soon with another video.